What's going on? Let me push the right buttons here. Whoa, it's doing weird things. Okay. Good morning, fish keepers. Cam here from the fishroom.co.nz. We've done it. We've made it. We're at Friday. Hip, hip, hooray. That's a very good coffee, and I'm happy with that. All right. So today we have ourselves a special guest on. I'd like to bring up Brian Miller from Sikim. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite fine. Good morning, way down there and over.
Thank you very much for being with us. It's much appreciated. It's been a long time coming. A
Yes.
lot of schedules that haven't quite worked and things that have popped up. But yeah, we've been trying to make this work for a while. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's a humble honor. It really is. Just loving what we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. So what got you involved and interested in keeping fish and keeping aquariums?
Wow. I think it can go all the way back. So I'm 56 years old now as of April 10th. So I'm an old dude. But when I was a young dude, probably 8 or 9 years old, is about as much early as I can remember. There used to be in the shopping malls, there would always be a pet store. And some of the
Mm-hmm.
better pet stores in those shopping malls would have aquarium section. And or the Woolworths, when we still had Woolworths in the US, which we don't anymore, unfortunately. Woolworths would always have a aquatics aisle. And that would be the first place I'd run to when my parents would go into these places to shop. And you couldn't get me out. I'd just see this fish, that fish, the other fish. Oh, and what's that? And then a little further along in my childhood, you started seeing marine and reef. And I never forget seeing my first like anemone or a bubble tip anemone. I think mom had to call mall security to go find me because I was entranced. Just what is that? So that planted the seeds, so to speak, and that's back in the 70s, late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Way back. Oh my God. But then things kind of progressed, and going through high school and life happens, and then I wound up in Colorado finishing up university there, and also a 4-year stint in the Army National Guard because I wanted to give a little back. I'm no GI Joe or anything, but I wanted to give a little service to my country, um, and then that was wrapping up, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I started off as a music major in university and pursued that for about 3 years, playing the tuba of all things. So I'm
Wow.
a classically trained musician who has not played the tuba in a long time. And then I realized that, wow, this is really great. It's fun. I love it. And there's a little irony coming up. I really can't play the tuba and make a living and feed a family and all those kind of things that I want to do. So my brother-in-law had an aquarium shop that I was working part-time at as one of my jobs, a low income stream while I was in university. And then he purchased a second shop. And he says, Brian, you really got a knack on this. Can you please manage this one shop? And I'll go manage the second one. And that's where it started. And that was 1990, 91.
Mm-hmm. Around
And,
me. Yep.
and then so that started me in a career now, fast forward to 2024, that wow, I never thought you can make a living on that and feed a family. And I did. So, um, I was in the shop environment for several years, and then circumstances caused my brother-in-law to have to shut down one of the shops, and he moved back into the original shop. And as well as we were doing, it still was enough. The shop couldn't really support two managers' income, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to go work for our distributor, a wholesale supplier of pets and aquatics goods in Colorado. And that was called Cashway Pet Supply. And they were around for many years. And what a beautiful family and a beautiful company. And I did that for 10 years. I had 50, 55 shops that I saw once a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all up and down the Front Range of the Rocky Mountains, between Fort Collins, Colorado in the far north, down to Pueblo in the south, Colorado Springs and Denver in between. Now, I'm originally from Ohio, but I'm all over the place. But so I did that, and I was in and out of shops for years and years and years, and 10 years altogether that I was there doing the distributor rep, and they got to see my kids grow up, and it's like a family. But over time, both my wife and I, where we had met and our families originally were from Ohio, way back east, so to speak. And we wanted to be closer to family. So one of the product ranges that the distributor I worked for that we carried and sold was Seachem. And I'd used Seachem at this point, probably all of those 10 years that I was working for the distributor in my aquariums, because it worked, it functioned. Wow, this is great. It's rooted in science and chemistry, not sales jargon and pseudoscience and all that nonsense. And wow, it worked. And I remember I had to get on with a company that had a national scope spread so I could have a chance to move back east, long distance, maybe 1,400 miles or 2,500 kilometers, 2,200 kilometers. And then
around about that, yeah.
Yeah. And the Seachem guy would come out once or twice a year over those years, and the salesman, and we'd go around and see my shops together and explain the products, and really had a great relationship with the Seachem company already. So it was the first that came to mind. And I said, I'm going to contact Seachem to see if they have something available back in the Ohio area, the Northeast US area. Throw it out there, and luck would have it, they said, well, yeah, we do have an opening for that area, and come and interview. So next thing I did is bought an airline ticket on Frontier Airlines and flew my butt down there and interviewed with the owner's son and our other owner, Doug Hill, and he's our CEO. And luck would have it again, I got the job, and the rest was fate, I guess. And thank God. And I'm babbling a little bit because now I'm thinking about the way back. And that was the start of it. And I remember quipping to my wife, wow, they offered me the job. I don't have to lie to make a living. I love this stuff, And everybody who meets me knows I'm kind of a mama's boy, honesty and relationship and long-term, we're all in the same kind of boat thinking that's what I'm all about. So I started seeing shops in the jungle, so to speak, the concrete jungles of New York City and Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and all the crazy traffic that came with that, and Ohio cities, Cleveland and Columbus and Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, and all the way down to Virginia was about the farthest south I went, and did that for about 2.5 years. And I was always had a long-term dream, as even as a little boy, what's around the next bend, what's down the street, what's over the next hill. I'd get on my bike and just go forever and ever and hours just to see what's going on. So I was always a wanderer. And I let Seachem know that if any opportunities were to arise on the international side of things, I would love to do that. And at the time, our vice president, Jim Rogers, was growing and doing international sales, but he was also starting to have a new family, young family, and he was going to go another role for research and development and do a lot of great, wonderful things for Seachem, but didn't require all that travel. And I'd made it well known. So I got a call from Doug Hill in 2004. It was, I think, November, December. And I remember very vividly, it was snowing that day in Ohio. I don't miss the snow because we don't get it in Georgia. But, he says, hey, man, I think it was exactly what he said. Hey, man, well, well, looks like the international sales manager position is coming up and we want to offer it to you first. I said, oh my goodness. And a few things that were, kind of, wow, dream coming true all of a sudden.
Yep.
And I said, well, I'd love to take the job, but let me talk to my wife first. Let me see if she's good with that. And he says, that's okay. You let me know. Take your time. So my wife came home. I was working home office, and my wife came home from work that day, and I told her the good news that I was offered the international sales position. And she goes, wow, did you take it? Did you accept? I said, well, I wanted to make sure that I ran it by you as my soulmate, my other half, that was okay. And she's like, you idiot, get on that phone. Yeah, she's of Irish and Polish descent. So very so softly, you idiot, call him back. So I did. And part of the job requirement was to get closer to Seachem headquarters, then, which was in Stone Mountain, Georgia, where we had our first facility. This is 2002. So, 2004. Yeah. Okay, I'm confused. No, 2002 is when I started with Seachem. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. 2002, I started Seachem, and this is the late 2004. And then so I went down about 3 months ahead of my family, and we found a place to live and got that started and beginning to get it settled. And then in June, when the kids got out of school, I have 3 daughters who were all full grown and married, and the baby, who's 26, 27, she's getting married in June this year. So moved them all down in June, and the stipulation was come down to Georgia. And then so I moved down to near Madison, which by this time in Madison, we had moved our headquarters and facility to Madison, Georgia. Madison, Georgia, a small little antebellum southern town with all the charm that comes with it, and more people than more cows than people. I think there's about 30 people in this little town, but it's wonderful. And our founder, Dr. Leo Morin, had presence of mind years and years ago to set aside or purchase 16 acres out in Madison, right next to Interstate Highway 20. And that's where we purpose-built our facility finally, after outgrowing a few facilities before. And 11,000 square feet facility of production, 5 lines of production, production labs, chemistry and biological labs. We have offices, warehousing, shipping, everything. And so I moved to that little town and then started the international role. And my second house is an airplane, and I love it because me being the ultra geeky, happily goofy kind of type that I am, my hobbies are not like Borat saying my hobbies, but my hobbies are fish, loving.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, getting my hands. I always, if my arm is wet in there and soaking sleeves, I'm happy I'm doing something. My
member of the Wet Armpit Club.
Yeah. And then my other hobbies, which collecting coins, coin collecting, and aviation. Ever since I was like 5 or 6, I would visit my father in California, and he lived right at the end of the runways at Los Angeles International there in Playa del Rey, which was right next to the airport. And he would always take me there, and we watched the airplanes take off. And he'd tell me which one was, what type it was, what kind of engines it had. And so aviation, coin collecting, fish lover, and then I'm living the dream as international sales manager. I get paid to see the world, talk about the hobby that I love, the products that I've used for years myself before it was a twinkle in my eye to be at Seachem. And then everywhere I go, pick up different interesting little pieces of coinage and money and fly in those airplanes that I always watched take off all those years. So that's the rambling bio of kind of how things incepted and how I got started. And then right now, 2024, I just got back from India 3 days ago, getting my brain and body rewired from jet lag. And then on Sunday, off to Nuremberg, Germany for Interzoo. So looking forward to that. Everything getting back into full swing after the COVID era there. And but every time I get on an airplane and go somewhere, I still have that 10-year-old boy excitement, be it Canada, which my wife calls my local trip, same continent, and maybe 3 or 4 hour flight.
Yeah.
Or if it's like India's 2 back-to-back 9-hour flights to get from here to Mumbai. And some of the Asian destinations, they take a little bit of flying, but that's all right. I'm used to it. It's part of my life. Read a good book, watch a movie, go into the zombie zone, and then the plane lands, and then you're in another culture, meeting new and wonderful friends and partners, and you work through all these factors and all these logistical challenges, and then there you are, standing in a little aquarium shop. And the guy is like, I can't believe you flew around the world to come in my little shop to talk to me. It's the greatest honor in the world, ma'am, sir. This is the joy. Our company is family-owned company at Seachem after 45 years. We've turned down and resisted all buyouts over the years because the ownership at Seachem here, they're loving what they're doing, and their families and their kids are integrated into the business. And again, it's not a business. And if you hear Doug Hill, one of our owners, talk, you say he hasn't gone to work in 35 years at Seachem, and I have the same sentiment. Yes, you have bad days from time to time, but when I go on these trips and do my job and do my work, it's not going to work. It's a joy, and I'm talking too much, so maybe I'll take a little breath here in case you're probably like, come on, Ryan, no. Oh boy!
You just let it all out. There's no issues whatsoever there.
No.
We actually had a wee comment in the chat from someone. Let's bring it up.
All right.
As is keep babbling. It's fascinating how people get where they are, especially in this industry. And I totally agree. I love hearing how people have started with aquariums and whatever aspect they're involved in the hobby in the industry. I think it's also very fascinating how it happens and how it all develops for people. So
that's awesome.
Keep bringing on as much as you want. It's okay.
I'll babble on, Zen Ginger. I promise. That's
So you're the international sales manager still?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. And so other than all the jet setting around the place, what does that entail for you on a sort of day-to-day or month-to-month basis?
Right. Well, I first started for the first 6-7 years. I was doing basically the whole globe. First 10 years, I was shouldering almost everything, and we all can agree no one man or woman can shoulder that. You can do your best as you can and do the best job as you can, but your partners and customers deserve more attention, to get. So over time, we've added absolutely amazing, wonderful other international sales managers. We have a gentleman, Paolo Sergio, who does South America, Spain, Italy, and parts of Southeast Asia. I do Canada, parts of Europe. I do Middle East, India, and parts of Asia as well. And then we have a lady who does South Africa, Australia, and her name's Amanda, in New Zealand. You might have met Amanda Nice along the way.
I haven't, but I do know who you're talking about. I've communicated with her.
Just laugh. She's amazing, wonderful. So over the years, the international staff has grown. So, and we all just kind of get out there and do it the best we can. And my kind of day-to-day role would be, I get bored pretty quickly when I'm in home office. I live about a 1 hour's drive south of Seachem. And so when I'm off the road, so to speak, or not traveling, I will come up to Seachem at least once a week. And then sometimes twice a week, but usually it's just once a week. And then I have a complete office set up in my home. So, which is kind of nice the first couple of days when you come off the road and you're trying to just get back in the sync. But I get stir crazy pretty quick, and want to jump in the car and get up to Seachem. I have an office here and a desk here at Seachem as well, and I say hello to the people that I work with, but during either be it in Seachem or home office, of course, your daily emails, there's phone calls. I have texts from every text platform and social media possible. It is a web of interconnection every day with our aquatic brothers and sisters around the world. And it's all the way down to end users in some country I might have met when I was babbling in an aquarium shop to a manager or something. I'll babble. If they get busy, I'll babble to the help staff, the up and comers, that might have an aquarium shop of their own someday, which got some good stories there. And end user customers, I'll talk to them, help them out. And, oh yeah, you got Facebook? Oh yeah, I got a Facebook. You got Instagram? So every day, it's really awesome. It's not a burden to me. It's a blessing. It's my life. People contact me all the time, and I'm always that interaction. I feed on that. And there's been many times, be it in Canada, Asia, Europe, India. It's happened, I kid you not, at least 4 or 5 different times where I've gone into a shop that I've been visiting over the last 22 years, and I'll hear this, Brian, I'm the owner of this shop. So I go, it's my first time here. He goes, and I'm trying to place the person. I was just 17 or 15 years old, working part-time at such and such shop over. And I go, oh my gosh, yeah, you actually took the time to talk to me and tell me a little bit about Prime or stability or something. And I got my own shop. Can you tell me more about your range? And I was like, okay. But it's amazing. Be good, kind, respectful, and caring to speak with all that cross your path, and especially in the aquatics industry, and because we're all sharing a love again. It's people. I say the same things over and over and over. We're on the same boat. We're all in the same boat. Let's do it together. And I don't work on commission. I work on passion. Really? Yes, I get paid. Seachem pays me, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I often say we're all basically doing this for the love of keeping water in glass boxes or fish in glass boxes, and that's what we're all connected by, this one interest, this one hobby, this one thing that pulls us all together. And it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, a glass box with water and fish in it is still a love and a passion for people.
Yeah, I time and time again, I explain to people my personal philosophy, which is mirrored from Seachem and all of us here. We're going out. Yes, we are researching and manufacturing products to sell, to make a living. This is feeding our families as well, but it cannot be at the expense of a living creature, a fish, a plant, a coral. We have a high first primary responsibility to the well-being of that aquatic inhabitant in that glass box. They're at our mercy. So we're not just going to cut corners on a water conditioner or a reef product and make it more dilute to make more money, when that would sacrifice the best, most optimal efficacy of a product to maintain that living creature, and secondarily the satisfaction of the hobbyist, seeing the joy that it can be, not a burden, and it's fun. And I do lots of seminars around the world over the years, and people are roaring, laughing, we're cutting up and enjoying the fellowship, and we're very serious about what we do, but it's fun. This is a fun thing. So you'll never come to one of my seminars where I'm up there with a pointer going, meh, 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 meh. Meh, 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 meh. No talking in the back row. No, I'll be interacting, walking around, talking. We're all sharing. I've been in this since about 89, 90, working in this industry, and then a hobbyist for years before that. And I've learned a lot of things. I've gained valuable experience, made lots of mistakes. But I can tell you and everybody listening that every day is a learning journey. Every day I'm humbled by what I've learned that day, what I hadn't learned yet. I never get the tunnel vision like I've learned it all, I know it all. Never, because then your journey ends. And so I love learning, especially from the young kids. They're really dialed in and tuned in and have a lot better access to information that you and I did early in the day. And I just listen a lot sometimes and ask questions. And I learn a lot of amazing bits from some of the young staff in these shops I go to. And then hopefully, with my experience and things I learn, I'm sharing things that help them in their journey and their walk through the hobby or swim through the hobby.
It's a very interesting time in general for humanity, but for fish keeping is the information that was either in heads or just in books that were sometimes hard to get hold of is now so widely available
at their fingertips.
It opens it up. And I think there's still a lot of people that go, I know this information, I'm not telling you, it's my secret.
Oh.
And then there's other people out there go, yeah, cool, so you've asked me this, here's the answer. You've asked me this, here's the answer. Let's enjoy this together and build everything. And if you're experiencing a great time in your aquarium keeping, then so am I. Happy days. It doesn't matter if I've given away.
Share it. That's the joy.
Yeah.
Learn something and share it. That's the joy. And everything tends back to our responsibility again to that living organism, that fish, that plant, or the coral. If we learn something and share it with people who share with other people, it makes a difference to the well-being of our aquatic inhabitants. I like the banner up above beyond your head, by the way. I just want to say that.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. I was in New Zealand working with Brooklands. I did that for about 10 years. What a joy. I love coming to your country, brother, is never disappointing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that live here forget how good we have it in New Zealand, how beautiful it is, and just need to sort of take a breath, step back and go, wow, this is really quite spectacular.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing place. It's always a joy to visit, and met some great friends and partners there over the years. And then Amanda's working there now with Brooklands, and she's been stellar for Seachem. So
you mentioned before basically different communication platforms. Have you noticed that different parts of the world have different communication platforms of preference, like Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever it happens to be?
Sure.
And so you have to kind of be across all of them to catch them all?
And it's a palette of craziness. Everywhere you go, and it's sometimes not even country specific. It'll be region specific, a country. Everyone's using Viber. Or all these guys are using WhatsApp. Well, I like to use Facebook Messenger. Or you just got SMS, text. And then when I go to mainland China, of course, it's WeChat. So if I want to communicate with our friends and partners in China, the social media or the chat is done through WeChat, as other channels may be unavailable for whatever reason. And so that's why I have them all. So I'm just constantly rotating through all the different platforms. And I'm finding it's a huge mixture of everything. Instagram's been really big recently, and I was a late bloomer to that one. Not until about right around COVID time did I actually ever start using Instagram. My daughters did. They had to install it for me and show me, who's Instagram? Because I was Mr. Facebook,
Yep.
And there we go. That's my babbling answer.
I find Instagram very difficult because it's very hard to take photos of fish in glass.
Yeah.
So that's why I've not really used Instagram for a long time, just for that reason.
Yeah. I'm always in shops doing that little the dance in front of the aquarium because of all the reflections.
I've noticed that a lot of the Seachem employees have their name Seachem in it. Is that a requirement of Seachem, or you guys just sort of do it?
What was that now?
I've noticed, like, on a lot of the Seachem employees' Facebook pages, you've got your name plus Seachem. Is that a requirement, or is that just something that's kind of happened?
I think it was just a way to kind of, you would have a personal Facebook page and then you'd have a Seachem page. For sharing all your work and hobby experiences and your travels and your joys. Whereas a lot of our aquatics brothers and sisters around the world might not want to hear about my dog's gallbladder operation, blah, 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 that you'd be sharing on your personal one,
Yeah.
and my personal one is very mild and normal and non-controversial, the same as my Seachem one. But I think the Seachem just kind of ties it in, Brian Miller, Seachem, because there's a billion Brian Millers. Oh my gosh. Have you ever asked somebody, oh, you look me up, Brian Miller? And you can find me on Facebook, and the list is so Brian Miller Seachem, people find it right away. And the other staff will have Seachem on the end of their name, and that just kind of ties us all in together. And we do a lot of sharing our journeys throughout the world. And I'll go into a small country somewhere around the world and see a shop for the first time, and the guy was like, wow, it's great to meet you. I've been following you on Facebook for 10 years, 15 years, and I caught up to you. I got you. Yeah, so, but all of this while staying happily married for 33 years. You can call my wife, and hopefully she'll tell you the same. And 3 daughters, and my first granddaughter was born in January. So,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Something you said before brought up a question that I didn't have on my list, but I'm going to ask it now.
Yeah.
The Sikim jolt mugs that are doing the rounds everywhere.
Yes.
That I was using yesterday.
Yeah.
Is there a sequel to that? Is there, or have I just been tricked on social media? Think there's another one that's come through the ranks?
We have one that's called Caffeine by Aquavitra, and has a little molecule on it and caffeine. It's a similar related. I'm not
Are they the small shop?
No, those are the espresso sets that have Aquavitra, but we have had one, a full-size coffee mug like the Jolt, and it said caffeine, and it had a picture of the Aquavitra package, and in the middle it's CA, and not CA, or it had C or something, the nomenclature, or I don't know, but it's really cool. And I don't know if we have some of those around here or not, but I have to dig one up.
Good. I wasn't going crazy. I thought there was another one. I said to someone there was another one somewhere, but I couldn't remember what I'd seen. So I'm glad that I'm not going crazy, and I had actually seen it, and no one tricked me.
I'm not going crazy yet. I'm already there, though. You can join the club. Call me anytime. But yeah, there is one.
Cool. So you're off to Intero in a couple of days' time?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
What does that entail for you and for Seachem?
All right. It's just an amazing focused point to see all your dear friends and partners trickle by your stand over 4 days of insanity, I call it. Most interzoos, most of the days I never even stopped to head off to the loo. Getting lunch is even out of the question. And it's just water bottles and coffees all day long, because it's a passion focused point of, again, seeing everybody as much as you can in one spot. Now, all of us as a staff collectively are very active in visiting all our dear partners and distributors around the world. So it's not like we're never seeing anybody, but when you get everybody to come by, it's great. Our distributors and shops, we keep with information about new products and promotions all throughout the year. So rarely ever are we launching something specific brand new at Interzoo, just at Interzoo. We use Interzoo as just a liaison, a great physical point to say thank you, look somebody in the eye, shake their hands. And very importantly as well, a lot of new potential partners from some regions and some zones and countries around the world where we don't have a distributor partner. And I think we're knocking on the door of 70 countries around the world now. So that list is getting smaller and smaller on where we don't have presence, but it's still amazing. Every Interzoo we'll find some more countries or regions we can pick up a great new partner. So that's exciting. And then usually we'll host a dinner one or two of the nights, and there's only so many that we can invite, but I don't handle that part, but that's always nice. It's just 4 days of I always tell people, for me as the international sales person, it's my Super Bowl, quote unquote, for every 2 years. It's kind of the pinnacle, the point you reach to for then to move forward even to newer heights and things. So, and babbling away I go.
Okay. So what sort of planning does that mean you have to do leading into it?
For years, I used to do it with traveling. I used to liaise with Nuremberg Mesa and arrange the stand construction, the shipping of goods, the customs documentation, everything from ordering plants to be delivered to your stand for decoration, the lights, the electrician, the drayage fees. It was quite massive amount of work to get all these parties to hold hands and then still hope that when you showed up on day one of setup that your pallet of goods was there, that your stand actually was finished or partially finished enough so you can start constructing or doing your build. And those are all points of stress. But now our sales director, Nicole, God bless her, she does that. She's my supervisor and boss, and just a super amazing young woman who's just, she's incredible. So hi, Nicole, if you're out there. But and she's actually currently on the road out in Italy with our sales manager, Paolo. They're working in Italy right now with our partner, Seachem. And, but she handles all that now. That's a burden and that was happily lifted. But there's a lot of coordination. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty extensive exercise.
Yeah, it was never nothing any bad, but it was tons of emails and little graph sketches and designing the dimensions and things in the early days. Now it's gotten a little more sophisticated with as computers and AI and things can develop. They just can say, "What do you want?" And they go, "How's this look?" And they turn the screen around like, "Woo! That used to take me 3 weeks." So yeah. So, but we usually will be near Seachem. Sometimes our stands are joined, but now I think we're like across the aisle from each other. But we're partners in the sense that they do some European distribution for us, and they build out some of the designs and dreams that we have on the electrical side of things. Of course,
I was going to ask, is that the company that does a lot of water pumps and that sort of thing?
Idle power filter is one.
Yeah.
We have from the Aquavitro, we have some skimmers and some reactors. Sencha dose, primary and secondary doser. That's very, very unique on many features. So we, as lifelong hobbyists, we're always using products and we're always scratching our heads going, these people, this company, if they ever had an aquarium, why would they do this and this? Why don't they do that and that? You know that?
Yep.
Or on a power filter or a hang on. Why are they even doing this? This is horrible. If they have ever had an aquarium, they want to do this. So all these experiences we had using these equipments, we've taken that and with our concept and our designs and working with the engineers at Seachem, back and forth. That's what Jim Rogers does, our vice president, along with some other staff here at Seachem, back and forth working with their engineers. They have the engineering, the electrical equipments and things to put into motion what we're dreaming of and what we want to put the market that has some unique differences. Where at Seachem, we're the biologists and the chemists in the laboratory, and we can do that. That's our thing. But Seachem partners with us there. And what's neat about Seachem is parallel philosophies, kind of histories of the company. Where Seachem, we're celebrating 45 years as a family-owned company. Seachem, I think this weekend or this week or this year is celebrating their 50th anniversary. So congratulations, Seachem. Happy 50th anniversary, Seachem, Italy.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned before the Seachem facility. And that's on Seachem Drive, is that correct?
That's right, and I'm there right now, actually.
I was going to ask you, are you at work or are you at home at the moment? Obviously, you're
at work. This office here is way too organized to look like my office. So.
Can you just go into a little bit more depth about the facility and that kind of stuff? Because I've done a little bit of research on it, and it was blowing my mind at that stage. And I'm sure there'll be people out there that will have their minds blown when you sort of explain the size, what happens there, and the whole operation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so we were literally, like I mentioned before, and our original facility was the house of Dr. Leo Morin way back in the day. And then it grew into our Stone Mountain facility and full-blown laboratories. And then we outgrew that. And I think around 2003, we moved to Covington, which was a little bit further east of Atlanta, and into a bigger facility, which was 3 or 4 times the size. And we thought, wow, this is amazing. And we outgrew that in under a year. And then so the process was started on building the new facility, which was completed in 2005. And I remember moving in there and picking out my cubicle. Wow, what a wonderful thing. I want that one. It was kind of geeky fun, but in this facility here, it's nearly 11,000 square meters. And we have 5 highly automated production lines. Full inventory where we can stock many months outlays of inventory based on forecasting and how sales are going. And but then we have bulk materials warehousing as well. We're sourcing materials all over the continent. And then full staff of offices. And then we have a weight room. We have workout equipment. We have so a gym essentially, because our owner believes in the foundation of good health. I need to go by there more often personally, but
worry about that another day.
Yeah. And then we have a full set of laboratories: research lab, production lab. Most of our products take anywhere from 3 to 8 hours to formulate, some of them upwards of 3 days. Wow. There's a lot of amazing science and chemistry when you're formulating a product. We just don't dump powder or water in a bottle and boom, it's ready. Most of our stuff there's different components of this formula that are put together or mixed at a certain time, at a certain temperature. Then there's a period of time of waiting, and then another temperature. It's all in the formulation, how you're assembling. Like I used a Coca-Cola analogy. Everybody with a micron spectrometer can maybe analyze ingredients of Coca-Cola and figure out what's in it. But if you don't know how to put them together, when and how, the formula, you can never actually replicate that taste of Coca-Cola. You can come close, but sometimes, but it's never the same. And that's most of the beauty of the formulation process with most of what we do. And again, I alluded to before, we never will make something less concentrated to make more money, because then the hobby suffers, the living organism suffers. There's many products in our range that we take a less profit margin on because it's so much of a benefit to the hobby that it needs to be out there and affordable. So we'll put things out. We won't dilute it. We just take a lower margin on it. So we're always want it to be the most concentrated with unique features. No sales jargon. We have a full staff of biologists here at Seachem on our support staff. Wow. So we have, everywhere I go, I'm always saying support@seachem.com. This email, support@seachem.com. And Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends, depending on if they're at the computers, but Monday through Friday, you can get interaction. And here in North America, people will call us a lot on a toll-free line and we'll chat. And these people aren't salespeople. It's help people understand our products, the science, chemistry, biology that's behind them, how that works. Very, very importantly, when someone doesn't need a certain type of product, and then when they might need a certain type. And then husbandry questions: strange parasite, tissue necrosis on a coral, some kind of plant growth issue, you name it, chemistry issues. A lot of the times our shop partners, they can answer and handle that with their customer. But every once in a while, a doozy comes along, a real doozy, like, oh my gosh, we haven't seen this before. We invest in the hobby to be always available to disseminate correct information, not, again, sales or marketing or pre-programmed responses, but interaction. Or I'll take a breath. I did all that in one, by the way.
So you've got a full full research and development, full scientists. So everything is basically developed on site, manufactured on site, packaged on site, distributed on site.
All living the dream.
No additional chains. It's all done in the one place.
Yeah. There's a few bits like that Seachem manufactures for us, and there's a small bit of some shrimp accessories and some other little bits that are sourced overseas. But anything, chemistry, filtration, those type of products, that's everything we do in-house. So
yeah, wow,
it's quite amazing. We're a very rare breed these days. There's not very many true manufacturer, researcher, producers all in one anymore. Most companies selling supplements or buffers or remedies on the market, many of them are buying from a secondary source and then just marketing it with their label or name. So sometimes you don't have a firm grip on quality control or the manufacturing process. And we want to stay away from the Me Too syndrome. We all, as I used back in my shop days or as a hobbyist, you just see a plethora of products, kind of all the same thing, just with a different label. There's nothing really distinct different. So you're selling ashtrays and screwdrivers then, then it becomes this price thing. How about let's formulate and research, develop something that gives true benefit to the living creature and then joy to the hobbyist. That's when we all win. And that's kind of the passion in a nutshell here at Seachem.
Cool.
And myself. And I'm the goofy old guy. Next time you talk to me, I'll be the same goofball. I promise you.
I like that.
Yeah. Which sees what you get.
You're right. Oh, you're right. Well, you're allowed to talk about some of your products. Is it okay?
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, if I know it.
Cool. So I did a very non-scientific test a while ago on cycling aquariums.
Oh, yes.
Lined up a whole bunch of aquariums, tried 3 or 4 different methods. Stability was one of them. Throughout the test process, there was always an amount of ammonia and nitrite throughout the water, and it fluctuated quite a bit. I didn't read the instructions properly, as it said to add prime to it. I was naturally assuming prime was just to dechlorinate the water as opposed to help with the cycling process.
Okay.
How do those two products work together for cycling and aquarium?
Quite hand in hand, of course. Whereas prime detoxifies chlorine and chloramine, and then when you detoxify chloramine, you have an exposed nitrogen that 3 hydrogens attached to immediately, and ammonia is created. And if you have high chloramine levels, you could have an issue. So prime will detoxify that ammonia that's created by detoxifying the chloramine or reducing that chloramine. Prime will detoxify ammonia to over 48 hours in a toxic situation. So if you have a spike, it's going to hold it in a non-toxic form. It binds to aminium salt, basically. And that is the non-toxic form. It'll be still present on a traditional ammonia kit, but it's in a form that's non-toxic. And then if you have a functioning cycle or bacteria, that bacteria is fully accessible to that bound ammonia, and it can convert it. And it'll be, when the bond breaks away in 48 hours, there's no ammonia to return into the water. And then prime works in a similar fashion on detoxifying nitrite and nitrate. Prime removes heavy metals, and there's no slime in the bottle. There's actually an agent that gently encourages the fish to produce their mucus layer naturally. So the mucus layer or slime coat that a fish produces naturally, physiologically and biologically, is the most effective for mitigation of stress and disease resistance. So that's the features. And then where stability comes in, there's several strains of bacteria that are aerobic and anaerobic. So nitrifying, denitrifying. These are going to, once you get some type of food source into that water, be it an ammonia or some fish wastes, and you're going to hear 10 different opinions, all gospel to 10 different people on what method they use. Do they use a little bit of fish, or do they use ammonia, or what's this guy doing? Or is he getting some rock, putting it in? But you got to get food in there for that bacteria. So I always use just a few fish few mollies, platies, swords. Of course, you always hear the thing in salt water, a few demoiselles, but just don't put the rock in yet and never get them out. But what's an amazing feature about stability is these strains of bacteria are so adaptive. You essentially, if you're setting yourself or your customer up with the correct amount of biomedia for that aquarium, matrix being the Seachem's biomedia, in the correct size filter, correct size flow rate, and of course, very, very disciplined and minimal feeding for the first week or so, just tiny amounts of food. Stability actually cuts off that top portion or that top end of that spike, toxic spike of the ammonia to nitrate. It actually cuts that off when those other factors are addressed correctly, and you can get a very smooth, non-eventful cycle. I just set up another Malawi tank, 36-gallon tank, a couple months ago, and I got it up and going. I put my Tidal power filter on there. Got a good deal on it, by the way. The Tidal power filter.
Funny that.
Yeah, really good deal. And got my correct amount of matrix in there, and literally got dosed it up with some stability. Literally went to my LFS, and I got 3 electric blue John eyes and 3 bumblebee cichlids. I think Lapologus. Give me on that. And got them in there, and that's within 2 hours, and didn't feed them that night. Of course, the next morning, literally something that worked out to be about 2 or 3 flakes per fish, something very minimal. And not once did I have any clouding issues, no ammonia spike, no nitrite spike, nothing. So, and you'll get 100 different opinions again on the cycling process, but mine just comes down to correct filtration equipment, correct biomedia amounts, very common sense, small quantity of fish, hardier species. Maybe a lot of people want to do cichlid, but and stability is advanced enough to where you're going to knock off those toxic spikes. Now, there's always somebody that can torpedo anything. Oh, I put 15 fish in there and I dumped in a half jar of food. I put some bio balls in there. I didn't have anything really good surface area. Then you could have tragedies no matter what product you're using. But stability is quite flexible, quite amazing. Try not to sound like a commercial for stability, but 2 thumbs up.
So what I'm hearing from that is that for stability to work to its full ability, it needs to be used for prime and a large amount of biological filtration.
Not a large amount, but the adequate amount as directed. Okay. Like on our website or our products or any products will have a recommended amount or quantity volume per gallons or literage. Make sure there's an adequate biomedia, preferably a better class of biomedia, like matrix is really good. So there's a lot of ceramic rings, things that have good macroporosity. So,
and then because it's essentially doing a fish in cycle, the prime needs to be used to detoxify anything.
Initially, the initial water supply.
The stability then comes over top with the bacteria and the feeding of said fish to then colonize it. So is that about
correct? Correct. And the stability is doing its job right away. So you don't really need to be using any further daily dosing of prime unless you run into an unintended ammonia spike, or if you're doing another water change and introducing some untreated water, then you treat the volume of water being changed. But my initial water supply, my initial quantity, I dosed up with prime. And then next day, in the evening after work was done, I hit it with a shot of stability and I poured it in my tidal filter. And then went off to the store and got my fish, came back within an hour and got it going. And then stability, there's a daily dose for the first 7 days. Then after that, like a weekly or a monthly dose. And just as long as you're set up with the discipline on the minimal feeding, just a small quantity of fish, correct recommended amount of biomedia, you're going to set yourself up for really good success. Stability is quite amazing on, again, preventing those toxic spikes of ammonia, nitrite that you get with a lot of older types of strains of bacteria.
But they'll still be showing on tests, but by using the prime, they become not toxic.
Correct. Well,
so people
the detoxify, you're not going. You could get a false reading if there's ammonia, but generally an ammonia spike, stability is going to cure it anyway. And if stability cures an ammonia spike, that will bring down that ammonia level, and you'll be getting a correct result on a kit. So that makes sense.
I'm just working through a few different scenarios when I've had people in the shop or people online, and so from that, I'm kind of working on people who put too many fish in to start with or feed too heavily, which is probably quite common for people that are new to the hobby.
That's what
excited by a lot of fish feed too much, or because they're still using prime, the readings that are coming through are not toxic per se, but begin to freak out because they're showing stuff in their water.
Yeah, then in that case, if they're not, they're pushing the limits, too many fish, not enough biomedia, or just feeding too much. Anybody can pour enough gasoline on a fire to get into a bonfire. So if you're overcoming stability's capability, which is difficult, and it can be done though, if you're overfeeding and too many fish, inadequate filtration, that's where prime will come in to detoxify that ammonia spike, nitrate spike. And the way prime, again, detoxifies that ammonia, you will get a false reading. Any total ammonia kit on the market essentially is not desirable, because the free ammonia does 99% of the killing, essentially. Over time, if you have elevated total ammonia, you'll get fish stress and death. But free ammonia has already killed the fish 99% of the time before total will. And everyone's selling you a total ammonia kit. So that's not what we want to know. We want to know the free ammonia and how it exists in the aquarium. So a lot of the total ammonia kits that are available to us as hobbyists will say, hey, this does total ammonia, and an extra step you can test for free ammonia. Well, there's a problem with that, because if you test the pH of those reagents in that kit, it's very, very elevated. And as we know, the higher you go up in elevation and pH, you get an exponential increase in that pH, ammonia. So it gives you, it's going to show you a crazy reading. Wow. Like a very high reading, when actually it's bound to a non-toxic form, to a ammonium salt, and it's being consumed by your bacteria out of that bond. So those kits will give a false alarm. So that's why I'll segue to the Ammonia Alert that we produced, the little sensor that suction cups on the inside of the aquarium. The Ammonia Alert is a membranic sensor. It'll actually detect free ammonia at the level of how it actually truly exists in your water column. That's what's critical about the Ammonia Alert, not just a cute little gadget on your aquarium, but using an Ammonia Alert is the only true way to determine if your water conditioner that claims to detoxify ammonia is doing the job.
So that would be why, at least in New Zealand, there's a bit of a hoo-ha about those alert tags not working. So that would be when people pull out their liquid test kit and it's showing ammonia, but the alert's not, because it's testing two different forms of ammonia.
Reagents have a super high pH on that free ammonia kit that they're using. So it gives you a false reading, not actually how that free ammonia exists in your aquarium. And many, many times throughout the years, if the Ammonia Alert wasn't explained correctly, Ammonia Alert, you're not going to sell it to a discus keeper. You're not going to sell it to somebody who has, we like to say 7.0 and below, or even if it's 7.2 or under. because in chemistry, every reading you go lower from neutral, 6.9, 6.8, 6.7, actually every point below 7.0, ammonia is converted to ammonium. Ammonium is non-toxic to fish. It's bound ammonium. So low pH aquaria, ammonia is not a killer. It's not an issue. Now you might have an aquarium that's 6.8, 6.9, and you do a water change and put some rock in there, and then it pushes it up over to 7.2 or 7.3 for whatever reason. That could unbind ammonia, and then you have an issue. So what happens is sometimes we might have had a discus keeper or someone keeping an aquarium in the low acidic range. They buy the Ammonia Alert, put it on their aquarium, and go, it's been 6 months and it's never gone off. It's never changed color. I wonder if it's even working. So they dust off their old total ammonia kit, do a test, and it gives them the most tragic reading because it unbinds ammonium, essentially. And the customer might feel, oh my gosh, I had a toxic situation in the tank and the Ammonia Alert never worked. Well, chemically, not sales jargon, chemically, physiologically, it's not, or physically, it's not going to register. That's my babbling answer there. Of course, our chemists, our biologists here can be more succinct with their answer, but I'm more the guy in the shop aisle kind of way I talk, and
that's good, fantastic, because most people understand that logic more than this chemical to this chemical to this ion. But I found that bit there very fascinating and very interesting. And it's opened up my mind somewhat as well, which I think is fantastic.
Sure.
And I hope that the people who are watching have also gone, oh, wow, okay. There
you go.
A couple of comments. One from Helen, which I think explains it quite well as well, is that she's saying, I'm hearing that stability in prime probably doesn't cycle the tank any faster, but enables fish to safely live in a new setup earlier than would be recommended.
Absolutely. Nailed it.
Yeah. I saw that and I thought that sums it up quite nicely. I thought
perfect summary, Helen. Thank you. Yeah.
And Rebecca's got a question here regarding prime. Is it correct that prime reduces oxygen saturation while removing chlorine and chloramines, or is this only in the presence of nitrite and nitrate? Actually,
all in general. Prime is a reducing agent by its function chemically. So if you were to massively overdose prime, and there's a huge range of safety built into our dosing regimen instructions, but if you were to massively overdose prime, you could run into a scenario where you do lower oxygen saturation in the water and could cause a stress or harm to the fish. But that's at a level that's almost ridiculous of overdosing. You'd really have to want to kill your fish, like dose a huge amount in a small aquarium.
So we're basically talking a whole bottle into like a 20-gallon or
like a 500 ml
liter tank, sort of more than that.
Yeah. But the safe answer there, used as directed, 100% non-toxic. Prime's non-toxic by nature. It's non-toxic, but the way it works as a reducing agent, it will lower oxygen saturation if massively overdosed in a small aquarium.
So a lot of recommendations. You've got ammonia or nitrite in your tank, double dose prime. At least down here in New Zealand, that's a very common theme or a common response to people. Double dosing isn't going to be too high of a dose to cause an oxygen saturation. So we're really talking big amounts.
Yeah, ridiculous amounts. But for us to be safe as a company, and you just say use as directed, you're fine. Yeah. But everyone knows pretty much the safety and efficacy of prime. So
cool. This will be the last couple questions on products.
It's a joy and a pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
So a few months back, we had Mark Goodwin on with us. He's one of your ambassadors, and we were discussing Mark Goodwin.
Yes, Mark. Jordan Scaper.
Yep.
What a wonderful person.
Lovely man.
Oh,
We were
easy.
discussing the differences in Flourish and Flourish XL, and he
Mhm.
gave us his thoughts and on that. Can
Sure.
you, because that's often very, very commonly confused, the two different products.
Right.
Can you
Okay.
please explain the differences between Flourish, Flourish XL, and their uses for them?
Sure. Okay. Flourish would be what we call as our comprehensive supplement. You heard a lot of buzz about all-in-ones on the market. Well, you can never make, like, so to speak, an all-in-one that's going to, you can line up 100 aquariums with different species and different species load, different hobbyist habits, and to have a fixed ratio all in one is hard to get applicable to any one. So the way Seachem works is we give hobbyists the option. We'll have a Flourish, we'll have our Flourish Excel, which is our carbon, we have a potassium, we have nitrogen and phosphorus for closed systems that maybe don't have fish using RO water. So it's all about a building. We never tell anybody they need all of our products for success, but we give options for needed scenarios. And beginning would be good lighting, good substrate or a soil, and Flourish. Flourish is the comprehensive supplements, vitamins, amino acids, trace elements, everything for plant growth and development. Then, and also there's iron in Flourish. And very interestingly, we were the first, if not the first, one of very few, but I believe the first to pioneer the research and development of an iron supplement that uses ferrous iron in the 2+ oxidation state. And ferrous iron can be uptaken by stem, leaf, or root at any pH very easily because we bind it to it's a ferrous gluconate. A gluconate being a carbohydrate, not a sugar, but a carbohydrate that's an energy cell for the plant cell, or it's an energy source for the plant cell. But gluconate does a beautiful job of keeping that iron in the water column with no other exit until the plant wants to uptake it. And being bound to the gluconate makes it very easy to transfer through the cell wall, and with that energy, it makes a very low energy required uptake for the plant. And what the plant does when they save energy is channel that to growth. And where I'm getting at is most products 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and today, most products are selling our hobbyists a ferric iron, a chelated iron, or some of the buzzwords would be EDTA, you'll see on the label. There's evidence that some amounts of light energy can break the chelate on that, and the plant can take it in. But in the ferric form can only be uptaken by the plant roots in the root zone. And then the plant needs to combine energy and adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, in this process to convert it down to 2+ oxidation state. Then it can use it. So it's going around the moon and back using a lot of energy just to take in the roots. And the dirty little secret here that a lot of people are, maybe even beginners in the hobbyists, don't know is iron is immobile in the structure of a plant, a foliar feeding aquatic plant. A plant cannot transport iron from its roots to its stem, or from the leaves to the stem, or the stem to the leaves, stem to the root. Wherever it takes it in is where it utilizes it. So lots of extensive study at Seachem, understanding the biology of the aquatic plant, the foliar feeding plant. Let's use a ferrous form. Wow, that's what it uses in wild. It can uptake it with almost no energy required in stem, leaf, or root, and it makes a big difference. A lot of these ferric sources of iron on the market, the EDTA, the 3+ forms, they're byproducts of the garden plant industry for terrestrial plants that grow in soil. And years and years and years ago, we knew these plants, that's all we had to do a little bit of good for our aquatic planted tank. But we move on from that. We're always researching. We're moving forward, learning better. We don't want to stay stagnant, no pun intended. But so everything we do on the Flourish range is rooted in the biology of the aquatic plant. And I think we were one of the first manufacturers in the world to produce a range that wasn't just byproducts from the garden plant industry. So Flourish will be your main comprehensive. Then what Flourish Excel is, and this is a fun little story as well. Flourish Excel is our bioavailable source of carbon. in a liquid bottle. And why we researched and developed that years ago, and we were the first to pioneer research and develop a liquid carbon on the market, if you can believe that. Now, there's been a lot of other companies over the years starting to produce versions thereof, but ours has extensive amount of research on the maximum percentage of safety and efficacy on active ingredients and stabilizing that in the bottle and in the aquarium. But why we produced it to begin with is I'll even go back to my shop days, or just in the shop environment. A customer comes in and they're dyed-in-the-wool guppy hobbyists or grammies or in the fish, and week after week they come in and they see these beautiful plant setups, and they start thinking, wow, Cameron, that looked great in my living room. I want to do one of those. Okay, so us at the shop or whoever's there go, okay, here's your lights, here's your gravel. Okay, oh, here's your CO2 injector. How much is that? Usually the process is, they're expensive. No matter what country in the world our CO2 injectors are a little costly. There's some cheaper ones that have come along in the market over the years, but overall, that's another investment. And I think even more importantly, someone new to the aquatic plant keeping, they haven't gained the experience yet to monitor and regulate a CO2 injector correctly. So what happens many times, you have a scenario, the customer goes home all excited and they nuke their tank with their injector, and this is not fun. And they may or may not have got good advice from the shop on how to monitor and regulate, or it was too expensive. So that closes the door on most of these new budding plant hobbyists. They go back to the gouramis, go back to the guppies, or we don't want to lose that opportunity. So we develop Flourish to be a stand-in source of bioavailable carbon. And even most low energy environments today, wonderful, beautiful results long-term. High energy environments, you can also add CO2 injector with it to augment it. But it opens the door and allows you to have great success, a flourishing aquarium, and get really hooked into the hobby and see some joy from it. And then you can use Flourish Excel in conjunction with a CO2 injector for augmentative benefit as well. But all of us will know a CO2 injector in the hands of an experienced, knowledgeable hobbyist will get the greatest success. But Flourish Excel is the gateway. It's the gateway drug to hobby, man.
There's a lot of people potentially down here, potentially worldwide. I can only really talk from New Zealand's point of view.
Sure.
That basically just say that Excel is an algicide, and all it's basically doing is keeping algae away so the plants can grow. Can you talk to that a little bit, and how has that sort of comparison begun happening?
Flourish Excel is not an algicide, was not formulated to be an algicide, but many people around the world have seen claim that using Excel will kill that beard algae. Their claims made by many people in the hobbies throughout the years. That's where we'll leave it. It's not an algicide, wasn't intended for that. It's intended to be a bioavailable source of liquid carbon.
Cool. We've got two more comments just up here. Rebecca asked again another question. Good to know regarding the prime and the oxygen, and should assume that the timescale for the reduction is not going to be long, and it wouldn't bioaccumulate in the aquarium even with water changes?
Correct. It breaks down over time.
Cool. And Zen has asked about the ammonia alerts, and does something like CO2 affect it? If she noticed that the pH alert stops changing after about 3 months and she has to replace it.
Correct. Okay, pH alert, yeah. Depending on the amount of salts and organics in the aquarium, pH alert can last anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Where ammonia alert will last well over a year, but we place 1 year on the package. far as CO2 affecting the sensor, no. Varying levels, no.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You said before that you not long ago set up a Mbuna aquarium. How many aquariums do you have hanging around your house?
Just one right now.
Just that one?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been keeping cichlids pretty much my whole life, Tanganyikans, but and then we moved house and we had to get the tank set back up, but I immediately hit the road and just travel 3 weeks per month. And it's like, got to get my passion going. My passion is like empty hole in my life. So yeah, I compromised with my wife and we did the Malawans. So as opposed to my heart and soul Tanganyikans, little Gelitochromis I love. And I did have some Burchard eyes as well, but Marlar eyes and Transcriptus, the good old standbys. I just find them so interesting. They're like little aquatic puppies, you know?
Yeah, behaviors of the Tanganyikans are so fascinating compared to
Diverse.
Malawi. Like the shapes, they look very unfish-like.
Yeah, these little torpedoes. You know?
Yeah, but the behaviors and the intricacies with them, that's what I think is the coolest part of Tanganyikan cichlids. Yeah, you don't get the color, but you get interest.
And I could get those suckers to color up in ways you never thought Tanganyikans would. And here's a cheap little plug: cichlid lake salt from Seachem Cichlid Lake Salt. It's a true replication of the mineral environment of Lake Malawi, Tanganyika, and Victoria, which between all three lakes is essentially the same, except for the carbonate levels or pH levels. So. And we found all three lakes contain less than 1% sodium chloride. So cichlid lake salts is mineral salts, also less than 1% sodium chloride, which the whole premise of this commentary is mineral replication is the key. If you put your fish in a mineral environment that they've evolved to over millions of years, that's where you're going to get the most beautiful colors, vitality, lifespan, spawning, hatch rates. There's lots of documentation, lots of things out there on the web about results from breeders using cichlid lake salt. And depending on the hardness of your source water of what you're using around the world, you may or may not need our Malawi to Victoria buffer to adjust your KH, pH, or the Tanganyika buffer. But the one hub product, the base product, would be the cichlid lake salt. Critical, recreate that mineral replication, and it's amazing. I just get these really beautiful tips of blue on. It's like, that's not supposed to be on these. No, they're supposed to be brown and ugly. That's what everybody tells me about my Tanganyikans, including my wife. So that's why we have a Malawian tank. She goes, honey, I want some color, and I'm here all the time looking at it while you're traveling anyway. So she won the argument.
That makes absolute sense.
Bless her, man. She's
had another question. Red Laser is a continuous user of Seachem Phosnet. Is there any water condition which benefits the effectiveness of that product?
Okay, Phosnet is GFO or ferric oxide. It trends to be more effective and more impactful in a high pH or marine environment. So I believe it's 1.41 milligram per liter reduction rate. So it's very stout. That's industry leading, other than our Phosphiltrum from Aquavitro, which is 1.71. But Phosnet works great in all aquaria, freshwater, saltwater, any pH range. But we all know that a GFO is more effective in a high pH environment.
Cool. Fantastic.
Too much,
we spoke to a couple of guys from the tropical food company about 9 months ago, and they were saying that their facility has aquariums all over the place because obviously they're testing and stuff like that. Is there lots of aquariums in the Seachem facility?
Yeah, banks and batteries and walls of all types of aquariums on various stage control aquariums, victim aquariums. Yes, the short answer is everywhere. And then everybody's office and cubicles, we all have aquariums.
Yeah. So that I'm assuming there's all sorts of ranges of fish
Oh,
all the way
yeah.
through the place. Yeah,
Yeah. We're living the dream here, my friend.
I was going to say that sounds a bit like a dream.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very humbly and lovingly. It's a humble honor to work here after these 22 years, and I never will take it for granted.
Cool.
Yeah.
Laser's question about Fosnet brought up another one for me. I love Purigen. Purigen has to be probably one of my favorite
rock star
products of all time. And a lot of people think a lot of aquarium products are snake oil. That is absolutely not a snake oil product. It is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain Purigen, how it works, and what it does for the people that haven't tried it? Because I think it's amazing.
And I can understand. I love people to be skeptical, because when you're skeptical, most of the time it's rooted in care and passion to do things right. And a lot of us have been sold a bill of goods in the past. We've been market jargoned or sales jargon into something that's supposed to sound really good, but it just didn't pan out or work. And so that's what we stay away from. We visit shops around the world. Our true desire is to hope that people will, again, know how our products function, rooted the science, the chemistry, and biology. And if I don't have an answer for somebody, I'll never tell them. I'll say, you know what? I'll find out for you. Many times I'll text or call on the spot, no matter where I'm at, and get an answer. Or maybe the next day on an email. But Purigen removes, it's a synthetic resin, works on adsorption, removes excess nitrogenous waste, excess fish waste, food waste, all of this excess nitrogenous waste before it can convert into an ammonia or nitrate situation. And by doing so, it puts a clarity to your water that's second to none. And a lot of times our support staff, you'll hear, they might be talking to someone on speakerphone, and I've heard it time and time again. Wow, I use Purigen, and now it looks like my fish are swimming in the air. It's really, and a lot of people say, hey, brother, or down there where you're at, hey, mate, my tank's clear. Here, try, I'll give them a Purigen pouch.
Yep.
Email me next week, and you get this, oh my gosh, I thought my tank was clear. But it's quite amazing. It has no impact on your supplementations, be it for reef or for planet, because there's large molecule organics, and Purigen is going to pull out the smaller nitrogenous waste. So it's very cleverly done, minimal impact or no impact on trace elements. So what Purigen offers is taking out a full complement of that nitrogenous organic waste without taking out of the water what you want to keep in. Most products on the market are quite limited on their organic waste removal capacity, coupled with some kind of ionic feature, taking something bad, putting something back in. So, and those products really get full up with ion exchange and lose their efficacy for organics removal. So that's, we researched long and hard for this very specific resin on Purigen for great results. And you can regenerate it using a household bleach up to 8 different times. A lot of people don't like to do that, but if you have a lot of aquariums or your operational use, you can tend to save some money there by regenerating it. Each time you regenerate it, you lose about 10% efficacy, more or less. So that's why we say about 8 times, and then swap it out.
Yeah. But people that haven't tried it, it's an absolutely beautiful product. Easily my favorite product it's great. Absolutely love it.
Wonderful.
What's been your most memorable experience in your time, either keeping fish or working for Seachem, that you've been with them or been keeping fish?
22 years at Seachem. I think my most memorable moments was the 4 or 5 different times where I ran into a person who now had their own aquarium shop. They were the owner, and they remembered me from when they were a teenager in the shops and said, thank you for coming over and I could tell that you cared, that you wanted to help me out with something. And I could easily say those several different times were the most amazing experiences for me. And then the most amazing experiences are almost nearly every trip just being able to share in the hobby. So it's just
Nice.
like a dream of amazing experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to answer it other than that. Yeah, but yeah, and just seeing different countries. Wow.
I can imagine that would be a nice little bonus of your job.
Yeah, us Yanks were kind of isolated by two oceans up over here, you know, and a lot of them don't get out. So to be able to see the world and
Not
learn.
sure we should talk about countries being isolated when I'm down in New Zealand. So
True, but
yeah.
that's a beautiful benefit there. I love. Oh,
Yeah.
well, hopefully I'll come down there and help Amanda with some kind of sales activity one of these days. But
Be good.
Down and see y'all.
Yeah. I have a feeling I know how you're going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
How does your personal passion for fish keeping influence your work?
A never-ending desire to do it.
Cool.
Never have to be poked to be motivated.
Cool.
I don't want to sound like I'm living in a fantasy land. I'm living in the reality of living my dream, I guess. I feel so lucky that I'm doing something that I love. And that's what we all want to do. And told my daughters, you know, don't just hunt for money. You got to do what you love. You got one life and you got to love your walk through it. And yeah, that sums up my career at Seachem.
Cool. You've mentioned some of the values of Seachem, family owned, and not skimping on quality to profit sort of scenario. What are some of the other core values that drive Seachem and the brand that they are?
Partnership, long-term vision. Every distributor we work with, every shop we meet, and hobbyists we meet, our sincere desire and joy is to think long-term, to be not just a one-time sale of a product, but a lifelong of partnership and joy and sharing in the hobby. Truly, that's in incorporating our families into this, and that's truly it. Yes, we want to make money to sell products to make a living,
of course,
but in the right order.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Is Seachem involved in any environmental initiatives, or is there any sustainability practices that you guys are right behind, or that kind of stuff?
That's a good question. 6 or 7 years ago, we lined the entire top roof of our building with solar panels.
Cool.
Yes. 100% of everything we produce is drain safe, environmentally EPA registered with the Environmental Protection Agency. We register in 50 different states, almost every one of our products, almost every year, and we register correctly in every export market in the world. So we're very, very committed to environmental protection and the safety and efficacy of the products, proper registrations. There's also the Manquay Rhino Reserve in South Africa, dear friends of ours. Yes, for years. It's quite the passion of Seachem. We got to know these wonderful people over the years, doing many trips, working with our distributor in South Africa, and then it started years and years ago. One of our first trips, I think all of us were there for over 2 weeks, and we just wanted to see some animals, do a safari, to go take some pictures of animals, and our distributor somehow knew of the Manquay Reserve north up outside of Johannesburg, and we got to meet the McTavish family, the most beautiful souls, and Lynn McTavish is the beating heart of the Rhino Reserve, and saving them. And we would begin just visiting there on our weekends, over the weekends, every time we do a 2-week trip, which you usually did when you go to South Africa. It's like a 16-hour flight.
Yeah, make it worthwhile.
Yeah, you want to stay there a while to kind of make all the numbers work. So we learned more and more about the plight of the rhino and how they're just being shot dead and killed just so they can take the horn and sell it in another market as an aphrodisiac, which is false. it's just keratin that you get in your skin and your nails. You don't need to get it from a rhino. So we wanted to share in their commitment to protecting the rhino. And so we developed a sub-range of our best-selling aquatic water conditioners and the Save the Rhino, Mark of the Rhino products. And we will release those or produce those once a year, maybe twice a year in special batches. And a percentage of all those profits go directly, with no bureaucracy, straight into the Manquay Rhino Reserve to help in their efforts. And that's a big passion of Seachem. And yeah, the solar power, the sustainability, the correct non-toxicity of everything we do, and environmental protection. It's quite a big deal for us at Seachem. So
for the products I've seen, Stability and Prime, two of those ones with the Mark of the Rhino. Are there other ones that?
Yes, there's Clarity, our water clarifier, and also Pristine, which is our second stage of biological management. It's a product, it's a true bacteria for breaking down of collected organic debris in an aquarium. It's a totally different function from our cycling bacteria that you find in Stability. So Prime, Stability, Clarity, and Pristine you'll find in special 325 ml Mark of the Rhino bonus bottle, we call it. Look for those in your LFS. You'll see them from time to time. And what it represents is you for the price of a 250 ml, you're getting the Mark of the Rhino 325 ml at the same price. That's a true 30% bonus for a customer.
I often I purchase them to sell them, thinking, sweet, the customer's getting a wee bonus, but I forget there's a bit of a backstory behind it and some work going on behind it.
Yeah, there is.
That's fantastic. I absolutely forgot all about that.
I'm glad you remembered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm just like babbling so much. It's like, give me a few days, man. All right, I can babble on.
Is there any exciting developments or future plans at Sikim that you can share with us? Great secrets that might be coming through?
Not really, not yet. Sorry, I don't mean to be cheeky, as you would say. But we do have a lot in the works in the laboratory, a lot. And there's a few things that will be coming out here soon by the end of the month. And I wish not to say in case we run into some delays, which happens a lot when research and manufacturing. Something might come up with a component, it pushes a little bit of delay, and I don't want to. But yes, I don't mean to be like this, but by the end of the month, there's going to be some products coming out that are quite interesting and really neat. So
cool.
Sorry to be vague, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
How does Seachem engage with its community through like events and sponsorships?
We heavily sponsor local fish hobbyist societies all through America and all the different countries the international staff visit. We get to know them generally through shops or meeting customers in shops. And we love to donate products for raffles and support. And we'll speak at a lot of them. We're on a trip. We'll try to organize where we'll spend an evening with the hobbyists. I've done it all around the world, and it's great fun and fellowship. And you get to know some of the best new cuisines in the world too. Some of the fish guys are amazing. Fish guys and girls are amazing cooks. That's a fact. In some of these countries I go to, oh my gosh. So I put on a few kilos, just one or two over the years. But yes, we're heavily involved. Cool. Yeah, it's a passion.
Nice.
I keep on coming back to the word, but that's true.
You ran the Seascape Aquascape competition, might have been 2 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah. How did that go?
That was amazing. And it also highlighted a huge amount of challenges in organization, how something like that needs to be pulled off. So we took a break off on that this year because we were doing our 45th anniversary. It was quite a big deal at the Georgia Aquarium. But keep your ear to the rail, and we might pick that up next year or the year following. I haven't heard yet, but it's quite amazing. There's, I think, a vacuum right now and maybe some of these major competitions. So that's something we'll be looking at.
Cool. Have you noticed a trend in the products that you guys produce towards the trend of aquascaping that's really beginning to get some traction at the moment?
It's the hot area for sure. And most markets in the globe, aquascaping is the hot segment of the aquatics or aquarium hobby.
Sorry, I was just trying to work out a way of deleting it, and I brought it up instead. I'll work out that later.
All right.
Aquascaping seems to be the I don't want to say the flavor of the month, but definitely what's pushing it.
But reef's making a comeback recently. Just recently, there's some life going on, and I'm going to do a seminar on reef and marine in Dubai the week after Interzoo. So that's kind of coming back around. But right now, still far and above, it's aquascaping.
Cool.
My humble opinion from what I see.
Yeah. How big is the reef scene over in America? It's not very big here in New Zealand. It's definitely
huge. It's huge. There's massive setups. There's massive project works. Yes, it's quite a big segment in the professional side of the hobby, even in the organic side of the hobbies, the everyday hobbyists as well. I think freshwater is still king around the world, probably because accessibility and affordability, but marine is probably a larger percentage of the hobby in North America than what you'll find in Asia and some parts of Europe.
As a sort of a percentage, what percentage of your product line is freshwater based to marine based?
I'd say around 75% of what we produce is freshwater. Or freshwater applicable, but a lot of our conditioners are fresh and salt water co-featured. But about 75% of what we produce, I think, overall is applicable for freshwater, which is amazing. Yeah,
that is quite significant.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you think of any success stories that you've had with people using the products or some of the advice from Seachem that have changed their aquarium keeping around?
I think a lot of it has to do with like our filtration medias were the first set of medias specifically developed for the filtration of water, not using byproducts used in the air filtration industry and then try to apply them to the aquatic environment. It's years ago, that's all there was. And today, most of the products on the market are byproducts of air filtration industry. When you get hydrodynamics, you're trying to push water through a media or a matrix. Hydrodynamics means everything. So you'll find that we put an emphasis on spherical shape of a media because water can flow down, through, and around without your media packing, where you can get water. If it packs, you get water flowing around 70% of your media. You don't get that surface area contact. So I think the filtration medias have made a huge difference over the years in their efficacy, like Purigen. And then matrix, the macro and micro porosity of matrix is many, many more times than most of what you find on the market, if not all of them on the market. And that's actually been studied by independent labs. There's actually a way to quantify and analyze the porosity of a media. So matrix is quite amazing, very affordable, very easy to use, gives you a massive amount of surface area for bacteria colony, which then leads us in the hobby to have a more stable, more successful aquarium for all our bad habits of overfeeding, underfiltering, lack of water changing, all our little things that we maybe do and do not do. So I think one of my answers would be that the filtration medias and the concentration and efficacies of the water conditioners, and the Flourish range being one of the first, if not the first, formulated and developed around the biology of the aquatic plant. It's kind of a big, long answer here, but a lot of what I've seen, we really were the ones who really one of the first in the world to put the science into the hobby, not just the byproducts of other industries or the shortcuts or the only things that we only knew 50 years ago kind of things. We've just moved forward with science, chemistry, and the passion that just joins it all. I guess there's my answer.
You've mentioned Matrix a couple of times.
Mhm.
So I've got a couple of questions on that. My understanding is it's got more ability to hold more bacteria than, we'll say, your standard cylinder type noodle, for example.
Absolutely.
There's also a common theme or a common thought that your filter bacteria can only hold as much as what your fish can produce. So if this can hold more, does that then become excessive, unnecessary, or does that have benefits down the track in different ways?
I think it has whatever amount of overload you want to throw at it to meet and stand up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, your bacteria will tailor to what the food source is, the quantities. But if you start running into a situation that's constantly being overfed, underfiltered, lack of water changed, then the food sources start going to increase massively for these bacteria. And then now you're going to have the space for it. And then if you stabilize things down, and then accordingly, your bacteria colony will ebb and flow a little there, but you will have the capacity to deal with that. There's probably it, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So another common theme, at least in New Zealand, is using things like pot scrubbies or other porous type rocks for a filtration media because it's colonizing bacteria.
Well, you can get
they will, but obviously not to the same extent. So
the process is abysmal on it.
Yeah, I've always worked on the theory to people like the more filter media you have, the more fish you can keep. Obviously, you're restricted to your tank itself, but it means there's more available bio for your fish, the more you can keep. So the stronger the filtration media, that increases that, but also then the general health of the aquarium increases because there is more surface to house everything. So
it comes down
to visual stuff that you see, it's all the other stuff that's happening in there. Would that be about right?
Absolutely. Why put three tires on a car designed for 4?
Probably won't move very well with 3.
Yeah, you can kind of drag yourself around a little bit, but not to be silly or anything, but yeah, meet the potential. And what's amazing about Matrix, it's so inexpensive. Yeah. And it comes down, it just depends on the hobbyist. If you want to be the best that you can be, again, not in sales jargon or nonsense like that, but if you know something gives you so much more surface area to potentially meet any problems that can occur, and not any more expensive necessarily, it's kind of a no-brainer. You can get any types of medias to varying degrees with a certain amount of bacteria colonies, but there's a long road of failure and destruction involved with that too. So it's like us in the hobby with the passion, you learn. We all clamor for what's the best way, what works, And
I know you've tried not to be particularly salesy throughout the last hour or so, but I'm going to ask you a salesy type question, and you can feel free to be as salesy as you want on it.
Okay.
From a sales perspective, what strategies does Seachem use to educate and attract new customers into the aquarium industry or the aquarium hobby?
Generally, we have a whole bunch of social media platforms now, be it Instagram, YouTube, our own website. We have several Seachem ambassadors that are amazing in the US. We have some in Europe as well. And we're looking on to bring more. It's more about passionate hobbyist ambassadors, not just someone paid to talk up a product that they may or may not have ever used before. We find people that are like lifelong users and Seachem junkies, and I say that in a loving way. They're like, man, this person needs to be ambassador because they're like Seachem all the way, and that's what we endeavor to do. And then us as a sales staff, again, are very impassioned mission to go around the world and get into every shop we can around the globe with be it on ourselves going in and out, and many times going in and out partnered with the sales representative of a particular distributor for that country. And we believe in repeated visits, not just one time, but as many times as we can over the years, and doing shop seminars for their staff. But in 6 months or a year later, maybe those young kids have moved up to college and moved to another town and they have new staff. And we'll do it again. So we do lots of in-shop seminars, hobby group seminars, and all the social media presence, and lots of studies and documents and articles and things available on the web and our website, and us, the people factor.
Are you actively targeting people that don't keep aquariums to get them interested in aquariums, or is it solely on people that are already in the industry, already keeping aquariums for their hobby?
We definitely want to target new people into the hobby, and especially the young kids. Like there's a lot of shows around U.S. I don't do anything in the U.S. I do everything overseas, but we're involved in the Aquashella shows that are quite successful, and it's a lot of interaction and a lot of young kids, and you can see there, and you can spark the passion and the interest with them. And kids are smart. You speak to them straight, and don't overwhelm them with any flash. Just tell them how things work, and kids love it, and they see it, and they get inspired. But yes, it's actually a multi-pronged approach. New kids, new people into the hobby, shop visits like crazy, and it's a multi thing. I'm sorry, not so coherent on that answer, but
from a business point of view, it's something I've always tried to work on, and I just, for the life of me, I have not found the right angle of trying to get new people interested in keeping aquariums, because that's the lifeblood of the businesses, but also keeping people in the hobby for longer, because it's so cynical is not the word. It's so goes round and round and round in circles.
Right, and that's back through. I've alluded a few times about we want. Of course, our first responsibility is to the well-being and life of that living organism, and subsequently the joy and satisfaction of that hobbyist. And it's all rooted together. We want to produce these products that function, not with shortcuts, and always advancing the chemistry and the knowledge and the biology, and staying engaged. And I think putting something in the hands of the customer, and that's where we work hand in hand with shops around the world, making sure that shops understand how the products work. It's not just a bottle on the shelf. And our shop partners around the world are wonderful, and they're amazing about explaining to customers when and when they don't need something, because we've all been in an environment where maybe they're just selling in the shop what's on discount that week, or something with some flash pseudoscience that's not rooted in anything. And I don't mean to be negative or speak negative about anything or anyone. We just want the knowledge, the education, and that's got to come first. Access to proper knowledge. And
I think what you're probably slightly alluding to, didn't quite get there, is success, and like doing the best that you can for your aquatic inhabitants means they're going to live for longer, which means as a hobbyist, as a human, we're being successful, which keeps us in for longer. And it's hitting
that success,
being successful, and not, I've had this tank for 3 months and it's nothing but algae and death and problems.
Right. And there's no reason it should be if you have the access to the,
correct. This make successful, and then you'll enjoy it more. And the little bits and pieces that come through, you'll be able to be equipped to deal with it, and then move to the next stage. And all of a sudden, one aquarium becomes 2, and then 2 becomes 3, and then rat, and then a room, and then a house, and all of a sudden you're stuck in it for life.
Yeah, God bless you. But so things can and will go wrong no matter what product you're using, or something happens, and that's where we all want to stand hand in hand for being there for assistance, like our tech support that we have, and the shops we engage around the world. They're going to have at their hands the information to share, And then our distributor staff too. You get a distributor rep going to shops. Many of them have 10, 15,000 product SKUs going through their mind. And they have so much on their shoulders to sell or think about when they're in the shop. But even every one of them we work with very closely to make sure that they have a good understanding of the Seachem products, how they function in science, chemistry, and biology. And that they're in their minds and their customers' minds, they can see then which products they like to choose and use. And you got it.
When you've got products that are so well developed and have been developed for so long, is there any tests or tweaking that are done on them? Like we can use Prime, for example, just because the first one came to my mind. If some new science has been discovered, will you guys then tweak and look and see if it can become a better product, or does it just say, we've got this, it's been great for 30 years, we don't need to because it is perfect the way it is?
We're always evolving as we go along. Generally, the Seachem ones that we've produced after many years of research, those are the ones that were on point. And then the leading edge, the front edge, the organic building of the range is our Aquavitro range. These products are always going to be modified as they go. It might be the same product name, same bottle, but like you said, as we learn something as we go along, my very bad analogy, we learn chocolate is the best thing in the world for coral growth and colors. Then in one of our reef products, Aquavitro, we're going to incorporate chocolate. Joking, everybody, that's a joke analogy. Just don't put chocolate in your tank. But seriously, though, the leading edge will be our Aquavitro range. That'll be the range that's always grinding along right on the front edge of in little nuances and tweaks developed in, to where there's something that's absolutely been chemically perfected or biologically perfected, and that's generally what you see on the Seachem range. There's absolutely no more you can physically put in saturation chemically or to whatever effect, the way it's been formulated by years and years of looking at many different avenues. So Seachem are the fixed winners, tried and true, and Aquavitro is the leading edge where we're always pushing the envelope, pushing the latest. But we don't jump on bandwagons either until we review and research and develop things. There's a lot of things. We've all seen these bandwagons. Everybody's got to do it in over 6 months, then everybody starts crashing their tanks because there's no back-end research. So we're very, very careful not to also be bandwagonish.
Yeah. A bit of a loaded question, but how long does research and development take on a product? Because I know that.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah. Most products are literally the culmination of 45 years of our existence, or factors finally coming together to where the research has gone enough to put it all together. Yeah, it's usually a few years, on 3 or 4 or 5 years on some of the more basic products. And what you'll find a lot of the times over the years, we've maybe put several years in developing a product and it's ready to go. We won't push it to market until we've tested the dosing regimens on it, beta tested it for a year or two. And we work very closely with operations throughout the world, operational environments, and shop partners. Our select dealers will send out some of these products and get it out there. So many years to research sometimes, and even a long period of the dosing regimen. We just won't throw it out. We got to make sure if we're going to put our name on it and put it out there for our dear hobbyist brothers and sisters, it's going to be on point.
Are the products peer reviewed, or is it just all in-house science done with it?
They in the laboratory, and the ownership staff and our contacts around the world. In America, there's a lot of peer review. There's a lot of friends and people we associate with that will get products in their hands. A lot of the research we did in the Flourish range was peer reviewed with Diana Waldstadt, and so there's lots of things. Yeah, there's lots of peer review as well. We're definitely not isolated by any means.
You've mentioned the Aquavitro range a couple times. A few years back, that wasn't available for online sale, and now I believe it's changed. What
COVID.
was the original reasoning behind that not being allowed for online stores
Okay.
only, and why was the change towards that?
Okay, for years and years and years, going back to the advent of the internet and the hobby. So for years and years before that, it was the mail order catalogs that were always kind of the thorn in the side of an independent aquarium shop. Yeah, these mail orders are killing us, blah, blah, blah. And then the internet comes around, and basically what they did is the mail order went away, and now it's the internet.
Yeah.
So I remember working in the aisles of the shop, and then years of visiting shops as a distributor rep, and 22 years of visiting shops as a Seachem rep. You'll hear time and time again that shop staff or that owner, I spent an hour with Mr. Jones last week explaining how product X worked. Then he came in this week, bought a few fish from me, and told me how he bought product X off the internet. It's deflating for a shop who's trying to compete in this very diverse, multi-channeled sales world. So we wanted to develop a range of products, and they're entirely different from the Seachem range. We didn't rebottle Seachem products, but we wanted to put something. We're not anti-internet, not at all anti-internet. And internet is the here, the now, the future, integrated along with brick and mortars. It's just a different channel. So we're not anti-internet, but we wanted to do something special for the shop. For the shop to get behind where they explain it and they know that the customer has to walk back through the door to repurchase. And then that shop is at least regaining a forum of that customer coming in to see and be inspired by the new fish shipment that they got in, or see some of the new whatever they got, some new hardscape they got come in, or just to keep that interaction, keep them coming through into the door. So that's why we created Aquavitro, not to punish the internet, but to do something special for the brick and mortar independent, which is the backbone of Seachem. And so we happen to also intentionally, Aquavitro again was our organic range, the front end of the leading edge of where we are in the hobby and research range that's always evolving as being opposed to being fixed like the Seachem range.
My internet's just dropping off, so you might have answered it during that. But why was the decision to then allow online sales?
Yeah. COVID pretty much really almost put out everybody. Some of these independent shops, most of these independent shops globally, the last lifeline of shutting the doors or staying alive and getting through because no one could come through the doors was they sell what they had online, and ownership looked at it very, very long and carefully to allow them, the independent retailer, to sell that Aquavitro online. And I believe in North America, it's still not allowed online though. But globally, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's just definitely.
Yeah.
I noticed it was changed maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, something like that down here in New Zealand. So always curious to why it wasn't and then why it was, and it all makes sense.
Yeah, it was a very long and hard, heartfelt thing because we're so passionate about it.
Yeah. You've obviously been in the industry and with aquariums for a very long period of time. What are some of the changes that you've seen from the retail sense, and also particularly like the mum and pop type store or the independent local food shops to chains and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, we had a lot of influx of chains coming in, and it was kind of a lot of doomsaying with some of the independent mom and pops. And what we found, or my humble opinion, is a lot of the shops that shouldn't have been shops went away. The ones that were dodgy, so to speak, not good standards or service, not engaged with education, and a lot of those started disappearing one by one by one. And then over time, the chains had grown so quickly, but then the time-old problem of staff turnover in the chain shops. A lot of times, it's hard to keep knowledgeable staff to where it becomes just maybe essentially like a self-service situation if a customer is going into these chains. And there's a lot of chain shops that are brilliant, absolutely wonderful. It comes down to the staff at each one. But what happened over time is then there's a little bit of a void on the independent scene. The younger generations coming up, armed with passion and knowledge, and are opening up some of the most amazing independent shops. I'm seeing a little bit of a renaissance or a resurgence of independent shops again, bit by bit. It's spotty around different markets around the world, but and I've always told her, I've finally been around long enough, thank God, that everything goes in cycles. You know, everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the doom. We're all finished." Nah, wait a minute. This is just wait a minute. What goes around comes around, and I'm seeing a lot of resurgence in independence, and some of the chain shops are amazing, but that's just hit and miss depending on staff. And the internet's getting well integrated with shops as well. So I'm finding a hybridized approach going on in the industry globally.
There's a common theme on various Facebook groups and pages that chain stores have been responsible for killing the mum and pop or the local independent stores. Feel free to truthfully answer this. How do you think that truth, false? How do you think that's kind of evolved and worked through?
I think I'll go back to the chains. Some of the chains, depending on small isolated markets like New Zealand, you're pretty compact. You get a big chain putting a box on every 3 kilometers, you know, a big shop. It could put pressure on the shops, but the shops that have the good, knowledgeable staff and really tuned to education and being really resourceful on the quality of their livestock, I found that they got better at it. And then all the ones that went out were the old school, the guy sitting behind the counter with a cigar, watching the TV, and customer comes in and they don't even move from the, you know. I found just a lot of the shops that needed to go away went away, and the industry kind of started policing itself a little bit. And then, of course, the pressure of the change accelerated that. But I don't think chains are necessarily evil as well. But that's even going full circle because they have enormous amounts of overhead. We're starting to see now that in the aquatics industry, you can't overcome that with volume necessarily on cheaper pricing. You still have to have education, good livestock, or the hobbyists just quit going there once they get into the hobby a little bit. And any hobbyist that gets into the hobby a little bit and gets more educated and knowledgeable always goes to the independent, where they can get better education, better livestock, or they'll stay if there's a particular chain shop that has a stellar staff. And I see a lot of that, you know. So that's kind of my humble observation there.
The evolution of the internet has obviously brought a lot of things new to the hobby, information being one of them, online shopping being another one. Positive or negative for the aquarium industry, from the hobbyist point of view, business point of view? How do you think the evolution of that has worked for us as a whole?
The evolution of the internet?
Yeah, and for our hobby.
Initially, I think when the internet started really digging into hobbyist sales, it was like the Wild West. And it was just sell, low price, very little education or support or knowledge or customer service. But I found that the internet has evolved, and there's some really brilliant internet sellers around the world who are passionate hobby people, engaged with the hobby, supporting the hobby, not predatory pricing. And I'm starting to see an evolution towards that and less of adversity between shops and the better internet sellers. Now, I found every market I go, every country in the world, there's always the 2 or 3 players that are a thorn in the side of everybody, downing the price. They're parallel importing from a source you can't find, and it's the global economy, and it's always going to have that. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. We all collectively work to get these people online, and then maybe they go away, and then another one pops up. But overall, I'm seeing a little more peace in the landscape. Not trying to be a glassy-eyed optimist or anything,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm seeing some really wonderful online internet supporters and sellers with great education. And it's integrating with the backbone of our hobby over the years historically, which was the brick and mortar independent, and which always needs to exist and coexist, because if we don't have that brick and mortar independent or a very, very engaged online seller that has education, the hobby dies. And then Seachem won't have a future, so it's all, again, comes back to the education, support of the hobby, the responsibility to the living creature. It's a common thread, no matter what channel.
Do you think it's been detrimental to hobbyists in general for the likes of aquarium clubs and things like that? There was a big kind of, I don't want to say die off of aquarium clubs 5 or so years ago, but it feels like they're kind of pushing their way back again a little bit now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hobby, the COVID put it. Here we go. I hate to be one of the COVID did this, COVID did that, but people like to be hands-on instinctively. It's instinctive. You can only be cyber digital connected for so long before you go crazy and you got to touch something, get your hand in something, in the aquarium water, and sharing with other humans your fish at a Aquarius meet. And I see a little bit of sprinkling of those popping back up, because I can see by the calls of request for supports are starting to increase. I'm getting an email, hey, Brian, I'm from such and such society, wherever, and we're doing this. I'm getting more of those again, more so than the last 3 or 4 years. So yeah, I am thinking my way through this answer here, but yeah.
Cool.
I'm
assuming just because you jet set everywhere so regularly, you're not involved in any clubs personally for that reason.
I barely know my neighbors, brother.
Yeah, I thought that could be the case.
25 years, and I'm like, what's that guy across the street? Yeah. My friends and partners are around the world generally. I'm a foreigner in my own land. So no, locally, no. I just mostly I don't have time to do my laundry, reconnect with my wife, maybe see my daughters, and I'm back on the road. So
for someone just getting to know the brand, what would you want them to understand about Seachem?
We'll be there to support you with knowledge, education, not sales jargon, and then products that are very well researched in science, chemistry, biology. No pseudoscience, no smoke and mirrors, very genuine, passionate desire to be a partner.
Cool. Yeah. How much does hobbyist influence work to what you guys are developing? Are you kind of lurking in groups and clubs and going, well, this is a problem for so many people, we look at that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's how most of our products are incepted. Us being hobbyists ourselves, all of us having our aquariums, growing up in the shops, and our constant interaction at shows and meets and events and seminars, the support staff engaging in the wants and the needs and the problems or issues facing the hobby. And that directly all gets funneled right over there to our laboratory and the research and development. That's 100%. We're so integrated in every segment of this hobby, of our life. And we just take that integration and it goes right to the labs never stops. I mean, it's a nonstop hub of activity. It's amazing. I'll peek my head in there every once in a while and go, oh my gosh, these people forget more in a day I've learned in my life.
That brings us to the end of my structured questions for you.
All right.
We like to end our interviews or our time together with a quick school of 6, which is 6 very short answer questions. Sure. So are you a tea or a coffee drinker?
Coffee.
If you could have a meal with anybody alive, dead, make believe from any time in the universe or in the world, who would that be?
Jesus Christ.
Cool. paper, scissors, rocks. What's your first call?
Paper.
Are we alone in the universe?
I believe the possibility that we're not alone.
Cool.
I definitely believe it would be narrow-minded to think that we're the only ones in the galaxy this vast. So I guess that's
Love that.
yeah.
I love that answer.
Wow.
Heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails never fails. And what is your unicorn fish that you'd like to keep, see in the wild, spawn, be around, take photos of? Is there one fish that you have that you've always wanted to have or see?
Cowfish.
Cool. And last one, which makes 7, not 6, is where can people find you if they want to get hold of you for any reason?
Generally Facebook. That's
Facebook?
Brian Miller, Seachem.
Very good.
And then
Thank you.
Instagram, yeah. And then my email, brian@seachem.com.
Cool. I'd like to say thank you once again for being with us. Like I said earlier, this took a lot of time to arrange, and I'm sure people can understand why with the amount of jet setting and the different time zones we're in. So,
yeah, it was just one thing after another. So yeah,
we got there in the end. I really appreciate it because you're obviously
I'm
very
so
clear.
honored that you prepared to interview me, Cam. It's really, to me, it's a huge honor and a pleasure.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, and
You're
thank
welcome.
everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So have a good one, team. Happy fish keeping, and catch you later.
Take care, y'all. Keep the passion going. All right, bye.
Bye.